Hello and welcome to the third episode of That Saints podcast. I'm Graham Cunliffe and hello everybody. We're here, mates talking Saints. Who's with us today? Well, I'm back from a week's holiday break and I'm a bit thin on the ground tonight. We're missing Gaz Tinsley, who's marooned in Portugal, Eddie O'Sullivan, who's working today. So it's just Ste Orford. Hello, Ste.
Good evening, all right?
Good, yeah. Ste Beech is on the buttons and helping us out with chipping in with a few comments tonight.
Yeah,
hello, Ste.
Coming in off the subs bench, as they say.
And we've dragged in a Twitter legend, Norm de Plume, a Saints fan and all-round rugby league expert to give us a hand. Hello there, Norm. How are you doing?
Yes, not too bad at all. Thanks. Good evening, everyone. And thanks very much for the invite.
Excellent. It's always good to have you on. Well, where were we? End of episode 2. We just got ourselves through in the cup. Just beating Halifax, and we're looking forward to June's fixtures, which we're going to have a look at tonight, which were Leeds away, Huddersfield Giants at Magic Weekend, Wigan at home, and 2 games against Hull in the Cup and the League. So, where do we start then? Well, let's start with the game at Leeds away, which ended up to be an interesting game all round. Leeds 12, Saints 13. Saints Leeds with tries from Smith and Hanley, Saints with tries from Cyril and Makinson, and then all aboard for Golden Point. Steve, what were your thoughts on this game to start with?
Well, I could spend a lot of time doing the Golden Point rant and why a draw isn't a draw in the regular season, which I can't get my head round. But as far as this game goes, I think we were a bit fortunate. It wasn't a classic performance, was it? I think certain phantom punch from James McDonald on Johnny Lomax helped certainly enormously. One of those punches that's it's like a Bruce Lee punch. It's so fast you can't see it. I think.
Only the linesman saw that one, I think.
Well, I think even he couldn't point it out on the video at the hearing afterwards. He couldn't find it on the footage. So yeah, it's a strange one to say the least. But there was some blood on Johnny Lomax's on his shirt. I think
the old tomato ketchup packet in his pocket. Was it?
Rugby League's version of Bloodgate. I don't know quite how that blood got there, but on the game itself, I mean, it was tense and exciting, but it was quite low quality. I think a lot of errors on both sides, and a lot of missed drop goals in the extra time as well. And Leeds missed a penalty through Reece Martin that would have won them the game as well, which is a very kickable penalty, I thought. So we're a bit fortunate in some respects. And you know, we give him a try with the Cameron Smith try when Wellesby and Makinson collided, and he just touched it down, the easiest try ever score. So I thought performance-wise, not the best, but the important thing is, certainly at that stage of the season, was get the win, get the 2 points, because we have been inconsistent results-wise, and we had to get a win, and we did that.
We'd been stuttering for a few weeks then at that point, hadn't we? And I think there was a few issues arising at the time. I think last episode we discussed in great detail our discipline, which was causing issues, compounding the situation with our injuries. But a win's a win, and a win at Leeds, anybody take that. Norm, what were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, sort of a gritty win and a little bit of sort of tit for tat, really. It was exciting, but not the greatest thing, but good to get revenge for losing by a point earlier in the season, and good to get the sort of 2 points. The drop goal-a-thon was exciting and frustrating at the same time.
Embarrassing.
Yes, indeed. The Lomax one, I think the linesman has got sort of somewhat starstruck and a bit overawed and a bit played there. But that's sort of like played out, and a bit of a running feud with sort of Sam Walters with the news we found out sort of subsequently may explain that, but yes. Quite a lot of fractiousness between the two, but not one for the scrapbooks, not one we'll refer back to, but 2 points.
And an important 2 points for us at the time, because I think we're struggling to creep our way up the table. And we had then Magic Weekend coming up with Huddersfield Giants. Now, this turned out to be one of those stellar Saints performances, with the Giants just about taking the lead. early doors, but then Saints hammering them back with 48 points. But just before we look at the game, just coming back to the principle of Magic Weekend in itself, are we happy with that? Do we think it's established itself now, or do we need to relook at the format of it? I mean, I know in the past, Steve and I have had our comments about it. Do you think it's here to stay, Steve, or just needs a bit of adjusting in its arrangements?
Me or Steve?
Sorry, Steve Orford. I'll come to Steve Beech in a minute.
Well, no, I'm a little bit two-faced when it comes to Magic because I don't like it because it's a loop fixture. I think loop fixtures distort the competition and they're unnecessary and nobody likes them really. So from that point of view, I'm not a huge fan of it. I've never been to one, so I can't defend it from that point of view as the good day out defence that you often get from a lot of people who do go to the Magic Weekend. But as a TV viewer, and this is, I think, the important thing about it, as a TV viewer, I do look forward to it, and I'll sit there and I'll watch 6 games back to back over the weekend and really enjoy them. So, or you know, if they're good games, sometimes you get a bit of a turkey and you think it's a bit too much like overkill. By the third game, if it's not a very good game, you get a bit of rugby fatigue. But generally, I look forward to it and always really enjoy it on the TV. I think that's important because if we want to grow the game and bring revenue into the game, then TV is obviously a key thing. So we need to have a good TV product to attract new fans and get more revenue and get more interest in the game. So from that point of view, I could see why they keep persisting with it. I think IMG did say though that this could be the last one. They were going to change it when they take over things, properly in the next year or two. But this particular Magic Weekend event was quite successful. I think it might have changed a few minds.
Yeah, I think you may be right there. Norm, you're a fan of Magic, aren't you?
Yes, I love it, and on the concept of the summer bash equally. I went to Newcastle last year, didn't go this year, and I loved it. Loved the environment, loved the experience. It was sort of like great, and I think the only thing that put me off this year was just my mindset of travel experience from last year. Where last year I went up and sort of cheap first class tickets from Doncaster and a great journey up, but then coming back, lots of Transpennine train sort of cancellations and. Being stranded in York with York races turning out, so getting home was like sort of getting out of the last chopper out of Saigon. So, but other than that, and I love it as a spectator at the event, or equally for a weekend rugby binge. I think it's great. I think the difficulty has come with. IMG sort of saying they're going to put forward an alternative proposition and then not putting that forward. So there's nothing really to vote for or against. And of course, in that period of indecision, then clubs are sort of saying, well, we want to keep it. So it's all a bit of a mess, really, in that regard.
A bit Beachy, were you a fan of?
I've got a foot in both camps here. I've managed to go and watch it. I watched it at the Etihad when it was done, and I've also watched it at Cardiff. And I must admit, I've enjoyed it both times. I enjoyed it certainly at Cardiff because you came out of the stadium and you were there straight in the city, and it was really vibrant and great. You could get back in no problem. But on the other side of it, I'm with Steve with regards to it shouldn't be a loop fixture. I think the concept, it does get, sort of, pretty good crowds going up and down. And I think it's something they should look at and maybe just tweak it here and there. I advocate from a game's point of view, there should be something riding on every game. And I think if that is the case, then you've got more chance of, certainly going back to the television again, you've got more chance of people certainly tuning in to see that at least every single game on paper should have, at least some jeopardy on it, So you're going to virtually buy in people straight away. Obviously, you're reliant on the games being close and hopefully an upset or whatever. Still, there can be blowouts as we've seen, but nevertheless, from my point of view, I would look at doing 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4, 5 versus 6, etc. So everybody's got something to play for. There is something riding on the game, something along those lines. Because if it's, I wouldn't start something brand new. I think that's difficult. You've got something there with some pretty good footings at the end of the day. As I say, I think it just needs some tweaks, and you could get plenty of publicity behind it and get it moving on that way.
I think as far as we can, we need to make sure all the games are competitive. We don't actually do the loop thing in Australia, do we?
No, the loop fixtures aren't really a thing in Australia, but they don't have it. They also don't have an even draw where everyone plays each other once at home and once away. They have a slightly different fixture generating system to what we do. But if they have a Madu weekend, which I think they started this year or last year, it doesn't count it's not a loop fixture as such. It counts as somebody will lose a home game.
It's a regular weekend fixture list, but each 6 home teams lose a home game, do they? Yeah. Alternative game, probably. I've made a little note here of a question mark whether this was Saints' best performance of the season. Absolutely cracking performance in the end. 48-6 for the Saints. Tries from Lussick, Makinson 4, Huddle 2, LMS, Percy, and Makinson adding 6 goals for a 28-point haul. Tremendous performance. Norm, what are your thoughts on the game itself?
Yes, really good game, and probably one of sort of like Saints' best performances of the of the year. Huddersfield is a whole sort of like podcast on its own, really. They're going through some strange times. For me, I think the interesting sort of like thing, and the thing that sort of and articulated a point that I've observed throughout the sort of season is this difference between left and right in terms of attack. And the contrast is very sort of stark. Tommy Makinson, 4 tries, and everything's very fluid and exciting and great to watch. Set against the left, where nothing really happens. Wingers are sort of starved of ball, and it's quite the reversal, because years previous it was very much Saints very lopsided on the on the left, and something that's that's very puzzling, and I'm sure there's a story behind it, but it'll be interesting to sort of like find out, and I'm sure I'm not the only person casual sort of like fan who's observed that.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you have a thought on that, Steve?
Yeah, I think we had the opposite problem in the years gone by when Regan Grace was on that left side with Mark Percival. We were sort of lean towards the left a bit more, but now it's all coming back to the right edge with Makinson on that side. I also take Norm's point about Huddersfield. They are pretty terrible. We're going to take that into account when we judge this performance. I think Watto Ball might be on the way out. But you can't do more than beat the team that's put in front of you, though. And I thought Saints were absolutely brilliant on that day in that respect. As Norm says, 4 tries for Makinson, 2 for Hurrell. The Lussick try at the end was probably the best try of the season so far anywhere in Super League, where Wellesby picks up the little kick through and puts Makinson away, and then you give a little flick pass out to Lussick, and he beats the defender and scores. Brilliant try, length of the field effort. We don't see many of them length of the field efforts, especially at Saints in recent years, when we've been a bit more conservative, let's say, with our style. So really impressed by that, and it was a bad start because our old friend Kevin Nagama scored the first try for Huddersfield, but they had to score 48 unanswered points. Like I say, I don't think you can do any better than that. Really, it was up until you could probably make a case for the Wigan game at Holiday, but up until that point, it was certainly the best performance of the season.
I've got a note here, Beechy, about the kit.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about the kit?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when they said they were going to. One thing I've got to say, at least they've stuck to. They've changed in the sense of. Not like some of the crazy ones they've had in the past. I know they've been celebrating various things, but they've gone down there's a reason behind it, obviously from the 150 years, but it just looked odd, didn't it? It really looked odd.
I think I heard a comment, I think it might have been the missus watching it, saying they've all been to Burton's and bought the Stumber Polo shirts.
Yeah.
Well, there must have been a reason why they changed those colours.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, there was no TV then, was there?
Anyway, 48-6, great performance. Some decent competitive games at Magic Weekend this year, and that set us up nicely for the return with Wigan. The next game after the Good Friday defeat, we were looking forward to a bit of form, hitting a bit of form just at the right time, and we didn't disappoint. Cracking fixture in front of 17,000 at the Totally Wicked. Saints 34, Wigan 16. Happy with that every day of the week. Take them all day long. 2 for Makinson, 2 for Wellesby, a nice try from Parsi, and a key try perhaps from Joe Batchelor. Couple of Wigan tries in the first half, keeping them in the game really with a couple of errors. Tries from French and Field, and then a sort of last-minute consolation from Miskey. But generally, all round, I thought this was a top-notch performance, following on from the Magic Weekend. Steve, what were your thoughts on this game? Apart from extremely happy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, dominant performance from Saints, this one.
Yeah.
We saw the two sides of Jack Wellesby again, where he dribbled through the line for a great try, and then he slipped over to allow Evan French to get one back for Wigan. But yeah, I think overall we had control of the game. I never really thought we were going to lose the game, and we were by far the better side, which was really good to see after the way we didn't quite get over them at their place at Easter. So yeah, really pleased with that win. And
I think it sort of brings out the frustration of a few fans that we can play like that one week and to go back to another way.
It encapsulated the problem that's been there all season. It's been
the team is in there, with those
really ones.
Yeah. Norm, did you get a good look at this one?
Yes, I enjoyed it very much. It was a stark contrast to Good Friday and the way that we used to play it and the result that there, but a strong parallel to the previous Good Friday at Saints, where an early couple of pace and sort of trick tries, if you will, and then Saints gaining dominance, and that was sort of like good to sort of see. I think the most notable part for me was the way that sort of Saints didn't allow Wigan's dark arts to sort of manage and sort of set the tempo for the sort of speed of the play the ball, which was very much in evidence on Good Friday. Once they got that sort of stranglehold, we couldn't get out of it, and and panicked sort of somewhat. But the way to ride some of those early tries and then come back and gain control, was as pleasing as sort of some of the tries themselves. I think the biggest surprise for me was the way that sort of Wigan capitulated. Really, know that they've got weaknesses in the forwards and they're seeking to address that through their recruitment. And I think that hooker as well for them has been an issue where they've not really sort of considered it a priority position for the past couple of years. And again, they're addressing that. So, yes, what's not to like about a derby win at home?
Yeah, tremendous stuff. Beachy, were you there for this one? Or did you get a good look at it?
I watched it on television. I must admit, it's one of those things again where the movements of that you get from Lomax, Wellesby through to Makinson on the wing, like they'd done the week before in the Magic Weekend. It's an absolutely fantastic. They've got her off to a tee. But obviously, they've got to try and, I think, look to have a plan B in some respects. But it's one of those things. It just shows they can do it. The beauty of this was the couple of games earlier, but when we were talking about the Leeds game, even though it was a 1 point, sort of win, that sort of then on the back of that with the Magic Weekend win and this, it shows you, the confidence was getting in there, and sort of getting back on the bike again, as they say.
Yeah. No, I think most people went home happy, apart from a couple of thousand from over the lump. I did. Somebody mentioned before that I think might be Norm that Wigan didn't look like they were interested. I thought they were bit shell-shocked after about 50, 55 minutes. They seemed to give up and have no direction. I think they were just I think they were outpaced and outfought in that game, which is unusual for a Wigan side. But great result for us, and the form was really coming through then, and I think we're all looking forward to the next match then, which was the cup game, the cup quarter-final away at Hull. Now, I think we all expected this to be a tough game, and so it proved. I think Tony Smith is getting Hull organised now, and with giving them a bit of a licence to play, and certainly in Clifford and one or two others, they've got some quality players. So we're away at Hull in the cup. Tough first half. 12-all at half time. Tries from Truman and Griffin, I think, in the first half, and then Bell and Wellesley for the Saints, and then all to play for. 12-all at half time, and then all of a sudden there's an incident at half time. I didn't actually see it initially. I had to wind back a little bit and see what was going on with Josh Griffin. I think he's more than his 2 penny worth to the referee at half time, and gets himself yellow carded and then red carded, all in the space of about 30 seconds. It was somewhat bizarre, really, I think. And then subsequently ends up with 7-match ban, is it, before the tribunal on the following day, and basically throws the game away for Hull. I mean, what were our thoughts on that? Steve, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I think, well, obviously the major talking point of the game is, as you say, is the Griffin red card, which I think was right. I mean, a lot of Hull fans have tried to defend it in the weeks since, until the transcript came out this week, which told us that he'd call the referee an effing cheat. And if you do that, then because these sort of things filter down to lower levels and referees are getting assaulted and all kinds of, shenanigans going on, I think you have to be firm with it and have to give out long bans to deter players from behaving that way. But as far as this game's concerned, it certainly turned it our way, let's say, because I was concerned first half because, as you mentioned, we lost Percival and Makerton in that first half, and that's difficult. Then it means you've got to reshuffle, several other players into positions that they're not familiar with, and that just upsets you onto your team and makes things a bit trickier. So to see Griffin then get sent off, it certainly flipped the balance back in our favour. Actually, possibly lucky that Brad Fash didn't get something more for his contribution to the Percival injury. I think what the disciplinary said was that he had nowhere to go. He was trapped by his own man who was in the tackle behind him, and he had nowhere to go but to fall onto Mark Percival. But I think that movement of the shoulder on the floor that you saw in the replays was a suspiciously deliberate one. So I was expecting a little bit more to come from that, but as it was, it didn't happen. But yeah, second half we did the job because. But I think if you're a neutral viewer, that red card probably spoiled it a little bit. It's on a free-to-air channel on a Saturday afternoon. There's big showcase for the game. So for neutrals, not great, because I think for us, I was thinking when that happened, well, these are done now. They're not going to be able to beat Saints with 12 men, and that's the way it turned out. So yeah, I mean, brilliant for us to get through to a semi-final, but I think Hull. I wouldn't say they were unlucky because it was self-inflicted, but had they not had that man sent off, it could have been a different story, perhaps, or certainly a much closer contest.
Yeah, Beechy, your thoughts on this one? Do you see this?
Yeah, to be honest, I totally agree. I mean, you look at it, the strange thing about it was obviously probably the player of the first half was Griffin. He was having a absolute stormer. And then obviously he went off. You've got to look at they didn't have Clifford playing for them. So you look at it, you think if they had Clifford and he'd have stopped on the pitch, we would have really have struggled. And what you got to look at is we were resilient when those two guys went off because the two, as you said, two big game players. And we're certainly going to miss Makinson, I think, because like I was saying before, I mean that movement that we have to him is that's our gold standard, and we've got a lot of success from that move. Are we going to be able to replicate that? Is going to be interesting moving forward. But you've got to give, like you were saying before, you've got to give Tony Smith credit. He's getting this team whole team together now, and they really are, sort of starting to show up. Just a bit that Griffin's let him down there with, he's let himself, he's let his club down, and obviously now they're not going to Wembley.
No, it's a serious issue, and a lot of there have been a lot of complaints about getting such a lengthy ban for it. But I think in terms of what he's actually been disciplined for, and the question of the integrity of a referee is serious stuff. And Norm, did you agree with that? And what your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of chatter on sort of like Twitter. An ultimate act of stupidity on his part. He's got sort of like no defence, and I think he's jolly lucky to get the sort of sanction that he has done. And I noticed the people were sort of quick to draw the comparisons and sort of post outrage at comparisons between his dismissal and the tip tackle that went on, and a couple of the sort of challenges that went on in the Lee York game. And for me, they're two sort of like very different things. And sort of take my cue from sort of like Ste Orford and the sort of whataboutery, that it needs to view things in in different ways. I think with what's going on in the community game, and it was a choice decision. He didn't sort of slip on some sort of like wet grass. The defender didn't fall. He chose to sort of go and have a word, and he got what he deserved, and he's quite lucky not to get 10.
There we go. Just to summarise that, we ran out 32-18 winners, and I was pretty happy with that, to be honest. And I think Josh Griffin should be bringing the cakes in on Monday morning for that one. It's not.
He's got a lot of making up to do.
A lot of making up to do.
It's cost him a chance to go into Wembley, and who knows what else over the next 7 games that he misses.
Yeah.
And he's been a significant player in their return to form, I think.
Although he missed the first one against us on Thursday, and we saw what happened. So maybe they'll play better without him.
I think Saints should require that he has to play when we play them. But Thursday night, well, there we go. Up to then, we're having a great June. I was away, found a little Irish bar in Porto in Portugal to watch it, and on my own, couple of pints of Guinness, settling down to watch it, and then, whoa, what's going on here? I mean, granted, we were missing Percy and Tommy with Hopewati and Benison coming into the side, but Paul had Clifford back, and he made an amazing difference to them. But again, I think we were complacent in the first 15, 20 minutes, found ourselves 18-0 down after 14, 15 minutes, and never looked like getting back in the game.
No, well, first of all, for me, this one, team selection. I know we had players out. You mentioned Percival and Makinson, but what on earth's going on to inspire the coach to select Morgan Knowles? I can't speak too loud because the coach is actually walking around these grounds as we speak.
Just seen him. We don't know what we're saying.
If he hears me giving him a lashing,
even
he might have me thrown out. But I did not agree with Morgan Knowles at hooker for starters. And also, the other one that got me, LMS came into the side at loose forward. LMS hadn't been in the 17 for the previous 2 games. Because when everyone's fit, he doesn't get in the 17 anymore. Because, he's never been my favourite player, as we know. But his best days are behind him, and now we've got a deep enough squad that he does not need to be there. And suddenly, he's the starting 13. That baffled me.
Why wasn't James Bell there?
Why wasn't James Bell
Probably the player on form at the moment, isn't he?
And why wasn't Joey Lussick starting?
Exactly.
I didn't understand that. So that added to the fact that we didn't have Percival or Makinson.
It's bizarre.
Was certainly it gave me kind of bad vibes to start with. But I still didn't expect us to get beaten as badly as we did, though. I thought the performance after that could have been better, despite the team selection.
Yeah.
There were a lot of other problems.
We got a right mauling, to be fair, but I just think the attitude from the first minute was wrong. It seemed to me, and we conceded tries that we haven't been conceding. I mean, the 2 from a yard out were coach's nightmares, and then another Jack Howler from his full-back defensive duties in not booting the ball into the stand.
Oh, that was criminal. The one where Truman puts a kick through, and it's in the in-goal area,
Yeah.
and he's waiting for it to go dead. He just keeps waiting, and then they get to it and score. Tap it back and score. That's at this level, you can't be doing that.
Yeah.
So things like that, and those tries you mentioned, the short range ones, just a lack of intensity. I think that's just not being quite at the right level of intensity that they normally are to stop those sorts of tries.
Yeah, I mean we've been throwing a couple of these in occasionally this season. These sort of poorish performances, which is a concern, but it's not necessarily much of a concern in the first few months. But as we get into the season, and the games become more important, as we'll see what's coming up this month, throwing performances like that in is going to ruin the season.
We were really consistent at the start of the season, but then I thought we got it together because before this game we were on a run of, I think it was 6 wins in a row in all competitions. So I thought we'd really ironed it all out and we're going the right way towards building towards a good finish and getting a decent league position at the end of the season. Because if we finish 5th or 6th, we're up against it to get to a grand final. Really, you need to be in that top 2 to give yourself the best chance possible. I'm not saying we can't do it. I mean, we've seen Leeds do it often enough. It does happen, but I would prefer Saints to be in that top 2 to give them the best chance possible. And the momentum of the winning run has now been halted, and it's how do we then respond, especially with Merkinson still out. So it's going to be interesting and quite testing time.
Yeah, and you say this, we're making some being out. The irony for me was Welland stood there afterwards, and when he got questioned about why. Obviously Knowles was starting at 9. He says, well, you've got to learn to play without James Roby, because the bottom, but at the moment you've got to learn to play without a Makinson on the wing, and that for me is, you've got to sort that out quickly, because like we were saying before, Magic Weekend, 4 tries from him. It's that same movement which includes Wellesby, Lomax, the long ball outs. To Makinson and he scores in the corner. That who else is going to do that? I mean, they're struggling with that at the moment. And the other thing is, like you said, if you're going to play without James Roby, got to get used to that. Well, surely at the very least you have your second string hooker starting. I'd starting, or at least.
I don't know what message it sends to him. What's he thinking when he sees that team selection? I'd be concerned if I was him.
I don't get. Norm, did you see this debacle?
Yes, I did. It had I mean, I know it just came the week after the Challenge Cup game. They had the vibe of a cup final winning sort of side being on the having a ball for the week and then just turning up for the next game, and they just weren't at the races. I equally was puzzled with the sort of selection. I just don't get the Morgan Knowles to sort of hooker, and I think with each passing week I'm falling more into the Dave Parkinson Morgan Knowles appreciation style. I'm just not feeling it, and I half wondered whether there was a thing of having re-signed Bell as a little bit of an experiment of possibly is that the way forward for him. We've tried this with Jake Wingfield as well. I just don't sort of see it, and equally I share the view that LMS coming in at loose forward was sort of poor. So once a few tries went in and heads went down. It was that's all she wrote. I think you can't pin a loss like that on somebody, but again, I think that it usefully encapsulates a position on a certain player, and that would be Hopawati. That all of last year, I mean, I bagged him, from day one, and was quite often called out for, he's classy and he's been sort of injured, give him a chance, and actually now. That he has overcome these injuries, we're actually sort of seeing that that particular recruitment decision, the culture algorithm, was completely wrong, and I think that's causing us, and has sort of like caused us problems. And there's still a bit of mystery about his third year option, but I'm just hoping that thanks very much, and possibly he'll follow. Paolo over to Elite One in France.
He's looking deceptively slow, isn't he?
Slower than he looks.
Slower than he looks, yeah.
Well, let's put it this way: it's slower than Stuart Howard's service and dummy out.
Oh, what a legend he was!
Yeah. That's one for the teenagers, yeah.
But after such a relatively good June, it was a properly disappointing to sort of after the Lord's Mayor's parade and fizzling out your fireworks, wasn't it?
Well, they'd done the hard work, hadn't they? You know, they got the win there at Leeds, which obviously buoyed them on for Magic Weekend.
Wigan, yeah.
Wigan.
Cup, yeah.
So automatically, should he have tinkered so badly with the team? I don't know.
I think not, because the league is so close now between those teams from sort of second down to sixth or seventh.
I think we've dropped to sixth now.
We could have gone third and we're now sixth with one result. So you can see how it's kind of concertinaed between those teams. It's going to be changing places up and down like snakes and ladders, I think, the rest of the way.
But bizarrely, our game in hand is Huddersfield at home.
Which is a comforting thought, because we will absolutely batter them, no matter what team we put out.
They might have Justin Holbrook in charge of them by then.
Well, I don't even know if Justin could work a miracle there.
It's an interesting one. So that's June for us. We've got technically one more game in June on Friday, but coming on, looking at the next month's fixtures. These will be played before our next show. Friday this week, we've got Castleford at home, which should, in all honesty, be 2 points as a home banker. What they did beat Warrington.
That's what Warrington thought last week.
Yeah, that's what Warrington thought. We should be now, at this stage of the season, banking the 2 points from this one for me. I don't think it's...
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we lost at home to Castleford, that would be a seismic shock.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Really?
At the moment?
Certainly with the Makinson conundrum, unless they sort that out, that it does really worry me, honestly. In fact, there's quite a few of these games coming up.
Well, and I agree with games coming up.
Yeah, I agree with you. We shouldn't be losing to the likes of Castleford, but like you've just said, they've come off the back of beating Warrington. Don't get me wrong, Warrington are not the in any sort of flavour at the moment, but
they're being very Warrington, aren't they? Really?
Yeah. But they'll be buoyed. Much the same as obviously Hull. Wanted to try and get their own back for the cup exit. So they've really got to be on the guard. Really,
I just think there's a lot more quality in the Hull team than there is in the Castleford team. I think Castleford,
up
until that Warrington game, have been really poor this year. So be really disappointed if we don't beat them at home.
Yeah, you agree with that, Norm?
Yeah, I think it without being disrespectful to Cass, I think it'd be a steady win. I think Cass will give a good account of themselves, and I think that it will be tick in the box. And yes, we're Saints are sort of back underway. A 12 sort of like 14-point win. We're not going to blow them away, and then on to got bigger fish to fry.
I think after Thursday, I'd just take a win and a bit of form.
Yeah.
To be honest, but because looking at what's coming after, we've got 7th of July, a trip to Wyre, which is...
it's the right time to play them.
I was just going to say that probably might be easier than playing Castle, to be honest.
Well,
they're not in great form at the minute. Warrington, they're struggling for form.
I think did you say George Williams is missing for them, which is a key?
Well, he didn't play against Cass. I'm not sure what his actual status is going forward, but he didn't play against Cass, so I think that certainly took a lot out of their game, because a lot goes through him.
Yeah. I think is Drinkwater missing as well?
He's missed a few games. Yeah, I think he's equally important actually.
Yeah,
those two when they play together, they're pretty good.
They're pretty controlling, aren't they?
You end up they've been playing with Metaltia, and I think Ratchford played in the halves on Friday. And Metaltia, to me, I don't get that at all. Yeah. He is not Super League standard. I can't believe he gets a game in Super League.
What was he say? He's not even the best number 6 in his family.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And then after we've been to Wyre, we've got 6 days later Catalan at home, which is a big game. I mean, let's win the next 3 and we're back in the mix. But whether we can play to the form where we've been playing well without Percival Makinson, it's taken a lot out of our attack, and our attack's crucial. Those two are absolutely crucial to our attack, and I I have some reservations for July because Cass. I think we'll be all right with Cass. Wire away, it's their cup final, effectively, isn't it? You know, mid-season.
That doesn't normally help them.
No, it's true. Catalan at home. Catalan are going great guns. I think they're playing really well. Although I think Lee should have beaten them from what I've seen in highlights. Have you seen those highlights from this weekend?
I've seen the highlights, yeah, but not too much more than that. So, but the scoreline suggests that Lee gave a good account of themselves at least.
Well, Lee were attacking, and then they got a breakaway try at the end, I think, to win the game.
Was it Tom Johnson?
Yeah,
I think it was one.
Yeah.
But I think you mentioned, Steve, was it are they missing Mitchell Pearce at the moment on a 3-match or something like that?
I think they are, yeah.
They got abandoned, didn't they?
Yeah,
that's right,
which when that happened previously, they
lost all the games.
slumped, didn't they? But,
yeah.
But I think Lee were missing 4 as well from bans from a cup. I think I got from the cup game.
Oh.
But they're playing well, and I think we're going to have to be. Very, very, very good against Catalan at home. And funnily enough, a week after that, Challenge Cup semi-final, the Leopards. So we've got 3 tough games coming up with a lack of troops. So how do you see
that league game is a lot tougher than you might have thought at the start of the season. If you'd said at the start of the season to me, you're going to play Lee in semi-final for a place at Wembley, I'd have been rubbing my hands with glee and delight.
Yeah.
But now...
You'd have been trying to book your ticket now, wouldn't you, Steve?
I'd have been trying very hard and failing
Booking a hotel.
to book my ticket through the Saints online system, yeah. It just wouldn't have happened. Shout out to my friend Adam, who's doing his best to get it working, but nothing happening yet.
Do you know the irony of that, Steve, that I always found? The biggest bonus that came out of the World Cup finals was the wheelchair rugby league. Yet if you're in a wheelchair, you struggle to get a ticket to any sort of major semi-finals or finals.
Yeah, that lad who lifted the World Cup for England in November. Yeah, that's impressive. But try and get a ticket at Saints for a semi-final. But you can't get one. It's not easy. Anyway, the point I was going to make is that now, coming to the game now against Lee, I'm worried about it.
Yeah.
It's 50-50 at best, that.
Yeah.
Because they've got real strike, and they've already beaten us once this season.
Yeah.
I saw that game when I was in the hospital, and Saints dominated that game in terms of territory, and they were camped in their half, but without scoring. They were just getting a lot of possession, but not really creating anything, just being there.
Yeah.
And then eventually it bit them on the backside because Lee had their moment, and they got genuine quality like Charlie and Hardacre and Lachlan Lamont, and they just really nicked it towards the end because we didn't put them away when we had the territory in possession. Which if that happens again, it could be a different story to what we thought at the start of the season.
I think there's only 2 or 3 games this year that I can think of where we've actually put a score on that warranted the possession we've had, because we've not actually played creatively enough to score a lot of points in a lot of games. I think it's a concern. Norm, what are your thoughts on the next fixtures coming up?
Yeah, as I said, the wire one is just could be absolutely anything. Could put the cleaners through them, could get the cleaners put through us, and anything in between, because just the bizarreness of the way that both sides are playing. I think that there's a nasty surprise coming our way in either the Cats or the League game. One of those, I think we're going to struggle. Like Lear, I think that they're building their sort of season round not just. I think they want to walk away from this sort of season with sort of something, and I think they've got very much although they're doing well in the league, an eye on the cup. And taking leopard print to Wembley, and I think that Cats as well. They're going well. Although there's some bizarreness there in the number of players and who's getting loaned out and who's getting sort of sold, but they're going really well. But I think one of those, I think there's a surprise, a nasty surprise in it for us.
If that's the case, I hope it's Catalan, to be honest. I'd rather lose that game than lose the semi-final.
Yes.
So it begs the question. Obviously, I raised in making some conundrum and Saints, I suppose, looking
it's like a Frederick Forsyth thriller, that, isn't it? The making some conundrum.
It's like they're a one-trick pony with it at the moment, and they haven't got that trick at the moment. But obviously, we've said he may be out for about 4 to 5 weeks. That's on that cusp of that semi-final. Would you get him in and risk him, or?
It depends how much risk there is.
Yeah.
Because if it's genuine risk, you could lose him then for the rest of the season.
Exactly, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
your grand final shots,
Yeah.
your chances are greatly reduced, I would say. Not like obliterated, but it's going to be harder to win a grand final without him than if he's fit. So it depends how much risk there is. If he can get through it, with minimal risk, then I would put him in because it's a huge game. But no, not at the expense of writing off his whole season.
No.
And also for his personal health as well.
Yeah, it's looking like we're going to have to take a gamble. I don't like saying that because I never like to gamble with a player's health, etc. And hamstrings are dodgy injuries to risk, really. And I think the likelihood is that he would be risked. I mean, probably whether we should or whether we shouldn't, I don't know. I think we also need to, if he's not going to be fit, hopefully Benison will be informed by then. Because I think Benison's been unlucky not to get a run of games at the moment in whatever position, and I think we've not got enough backs in form really.
I feel a bit for Benison because he didn't actually deserve to get dropped when he got dropped. Then as soon as Megason gets injured, he gets thrown back in after having not played for like 6 or 7 weeks,
and then gets
and doesn't
targeted.
Really, and gets expected to perform, and doesn't really, it doesn't really happen for him. But I just felt a little bit sorry for him. I don't think he is a bad player. I think he's
not at all.
Certainly a capable player, but I think he just got thrown in the deep end a little bit on Thursday.
Yeah, we've not had much luck with injuries all season, really, have we?
Norm, was you going to say something there, mate?
Yeah, I mean it's a bit like earlier in the season because I think wasn't Mankinson playing. I think busted is the phrase for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then sort of finally was stood down, and I think Ritson was brought in, and so I think that tells you a lot about the philosophy. And I think if it comes to it, if he's 50-50, he'll be brought in. I think a good opportunity for Ritson these next few weeks, playing on the right side in inverted commas, because you're going to get some ball, and a chance for Benison. I think Benison, he doesn't get much ball, and he just makes his own, his own luck, and has done well. I don't think ultimately he's a winger, but I do think he's, he's got a future, and we'll sort of see.
Do we need in the current circumstances? Would you put Benison at full back and move Wellesby to centre?
Cat amongst it's been muted earlier in the sort of season, and I think that probably Lewis Dodd comes into the equation for me. He seems to the narrative around him seems a lot more positive, but I'm not sort of seeing a great deal more other than Farge bombs. And as I say, he's kind of discovered this little pass to sort of Cyranin, and there's all a lot of chirping and pointing and what have you, but no play emerges from it. I don't quite. There's a backstory there. There's about 3 or 4 backstories in the same sort of squad. I think Dodd's one of them. I think Lussick we touched upon that. That's another conundrum that we're looking on the outside. It seems strange because we don't know all that's sort of going on. But for me, and perhaps something like the Cavs, you don't want to just turn up the week before the challenge come and say, you know what, let's just throw Benison in at fullback. If you're going to do something like that, then the Cavs game is.
Time to do it.
It's time to do it. But then, who do you put on the wing?
True.
Well,
true.
I mean, I'd like to see Richardson given a chance outside Huddle.
It depends if Percival's fit as well. If Percival's fit, then you've got you've got Boati as well. You could stick out there, or you can even put Percival out there.
Yeah.
So you've got options there, but they're not great options for wingers. I don't think because they're not lightning pace. But that's a problem we've had. And Norman said this as well in the past, that we've not got a lot of pace in the team really, considering how high in the league we are and how good we've been. The pace has not been a major asset. We need more pace, I think.
I mean, to be fair, we've got to give John Benison the chance to make a fool out of Matt Duffy again. Because he absolutely showed him the dressing rooms, because he just walked. He just sort of should have carried on walking because he was, and he is. I think he's a fullback by trade, Bennington. But you can't argue he's done a sterling job on the wing there.
It seems to be a way that backs get moved into the Saints team. They start on the wing to give them the sort of pace of the game, don't they? And then they move to their positions and whatever. Because I think Wellesby started on the wing, didn't he? A few times.
He's played on the wing a few times, yeah.
Yeah.
He's played everywhere. I mean, he can play anywhere, I think. Just get him in the team somewhere.
Yeah. I would,
except ironically at fullback.
Like a fullback.
Yeah,
comment.
I'm on the same wavelength as Normie. I can't wait to see Ritson, get in full flight, because there's been a couple of times where you think it's just going to get away, and you know it's there. And I think for him as well, if he can, get one of those full length tries or certainly deep in your own half tries, I'm sure it'll do his confidence a world of good. Not that he hasn't done anything wrong. I think he's been very competent and done a cracking job. But I think just for him and also the crowd to show what a player he is, because he is.
I had a good chat with him a few weeks ago at the golf day for Percy's testimonial, because he was in our team, and he says he spent the first 6 months learning the defensive system.
I thought he was going to say the language.
No. Learning the defensive system, because it's down to inches and inches and centimetres sometimes, he said. And where he stands, he's told to stand. Yeah. And what he does, he's told to do. And he's got to learn that. And it's all about giving the opposition the chance or the thought that they can get us out wide. And then there's players, players inside coming in to knock them out. And it's a defensive system that what he does is he's told to do.
Yeah. Because the thing with it is, when you've got that sort of person, firepower in your arsenal, as it were, and the opposition know that, then they've got to make sure they've got him covered, don't they?
I also think they're very happy he's not getting any passes out there.
Is he as fast as we think, though? What are your thoughts on Ritson, Norm? I know you've watched a lot of Championship games in recent years. Yeah. Is he what you expected?
Yes, I think he is, but it's you've got to use them, and I think that if Ritson was second fiddle sort of at Wigan, and was replacing Marshall on the wing on that game he came in, you would guarantee he would get some ball. He'd run the channels and he would get some ball, and you could see what he would he would do. We've seen glimpses, and I've been very impressed about how his defence has improved, his ball tackling. But then we seem to get a run of games, and you're just stuck on the left, and you're either outside Percival or outside Hopewati, and in some senses, where do you get the ball? You get the ball on kick returns, or if somebody spills a kick at the other end.
If somebody learns how to pass to the right.
Yeah. And if it's, you see all these other clubs
to the left,
the kicking from scrums and using players with sort of like pace. It's almost like Saints have been kind of shamed into buying some pace, but still in grappling with this thing of it's all about the power game. It's all about sort of like culture, and speed is overrated, and so there's almost like kind of ultimately a reluctance, really. So I stick him outside Hurrell 3 or 4 games, get him some ball, and we'll see what he can do.
I wouldn't argue against that at all. What do you guys know? No.
It's not a bad shout. Put him on the right wing outside Hurrell, and put Bennison left wing, and see how we go.
Yeah, seems to be the way forward for me. So that's next July coming up. Castleford at home, Wire away, Catalan at home, Lee in the Cup, and then we go back. We have Leeds again at the end of July, which is an interesting end of the month. Which we'll
is that one at all?
That one's at home, I think. Yeah, I'll be seeing them. I think we do episode 4 just before the Leeds game, so we'll
another 1 point thriller incoming,
or depends what we've got left after.
I say a thriller. I say a thriller. I use the term loosely.
Loosely, yeah. Right, well, to finish with, let's a couple of pieces of news. I think it's worth mentioning that I think Lachlan Coote has retired this week. Well, I've been away, but I think it's come out as news this week that he's actually retired with immediate effect, is it?
It is, yes. Unfortunately, due to concussions that he's been suffering this season.
Yeah. But lovely player, lovely footballer, and a sad but understandable way to pack in.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, health obviously comes first. Especially we've seen, what some of the problems that retired players have had with degenerative brain conditions and whatnot. And you want to do everything you can to avoid that. So if he's been advised on medical grounds to retire, then that's obviously the right decision. But in terms of him as a player, I mean, don't forget he had a very successful time in the NRL before he came to St Helens. Won the grand final with the Cowboys over there. And then came here, played for us, and was absolutely because we were all worried about losing Ben Barber at the time. We were all mortified at the fact that we'd lost one of the best players any of us have ever seen playing for Saints. And then he comes in, and it's like Ben Barber never existed because he was just that good. I mean, he didn't have that spectacular kind of pace or elusiveness of a Barber, but he was good in a different way. He was like an extra halfback most of the time.
Yeah. Steve was reliable,
and as a fullback, exactly. And as a fullback, he was a proper fullback who could defend
time.
properly. He could read the game, and he was just absolutely excellent for 3 seasons and three rings he got in 3 seasons. And you can't do any better than that.
With that, can you?
I think he's one of our best ever fullbacks for me.
He's up there. He's up there. Yeah.
And even when he moved on to OKR, I mean,
he changed their team as well.
Yeah. His form didn't dip. He still produced, some really, really good performances. But he was getting a lot of head knocks, a lot of, and it's understandable. I mean, you've got to take your hat off to him and say thanks very much indeed. I mean, not just from a Saints point of view, but from a Super League point of view.
Absolutely.
Because it was entertaining, and we were talking there before about Magic Weekend. I mean, they're the sort of guys. If you were coming, whether you were watching on television or whether you were going to the game, they're the sort of guys who you would you think, oh yeah.
Yeah, this guy's a good player.
Yeah.
You agree with that, Norm?
Yeah, I mean, he's had a tremendous career, and we all sort of wish him well. Done very, very well for Saints. I was a little bit sort of surprised when he went to Hull KR. Did he have another couple of years sort of like in him more on the fact of hamstrings and legs and pace. When you get and he's not one of these players who's had a long history of head knocks. I think it's just sort of something that's happened really recently, and you just have to take the medical advice. And I can sort of see him. He's a very intelligent and articulate individual as well. Off the field, I could see him moving into coaching.
Definitely,
definitely. I can see him.
Do that, yeah.
Well, to be fair, they wouldn't go far wrong. Certainly, Sky or somebody like that to get hold of him and get him, sort of in the commentary box doing some punditry, because I'm sure he'd be very good.
There were a list of people you could use to replace with him. You could get rid of to get him in, definitely. Terry O'Connor can go for starters.
Yep. Well, Phil.
Phil.
There's anybody with a Wigan connection?
No, because for me, I mean, when you hear him speak, it's really, really good. In fact, Graham heard him speak for about 35 minutes.
I did. That was the best interview I've ever done with the Saints player. And what didn't I do?
I did.
Press the record button. 35 minutes of a great chat with Lachlan Coote.
Oh my word!
It was
a belter.
You're a real life David Frost.
Yeah, a belter. It would have been game changing, that Steve, wouldn't it?
It was. I mean, I was there, so I can vouch for it.
Yeah, but you're in charge of the buttons, mate. So don't be doing that. Don't be dobbing me in for that one completely.
But he was. I mean, joking aside, he was really good, wasn't he? Because he just started and he was really.
But he's a natural speaker.
Yeah.
He was he knew what you were trying to ask him, and he didn't do it very well. And he answered the question he thought you wanted to ask, and he's just a lovely guy as well.
I can see it. Lachlan Coote, the lost tapes.
The lost tapes. to go with the Makinson conundrum.
Box set.
Yes. All right, couple of new deals for Saints players then. You flagged this, Steve. You saw this week while I was off, wasn't it?
Yes, James Bell and Curtis Sheridan. James Bell we spoke about a bit on the show tonight because we've been talking about Morgan Knowles and whether and Louis McCarthy-Scarsbrook, and whether he should have played at loose forward or not the other night. James Bell, I think he's been outstanding this year, and I think he's fully deserved another 2 years. But then suddenly, the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, he finds himself out of the team again on the bench with Morgan Knowles returning. And then even when Morgan Knowles was switched to hooker, he still didn't pick James Bell to play at loose forward. So I don't know what's going on there, because I think his form warrants that starting 13 jersey even over Morgan Knowles at the moment, because Morgan Knowles, for me, I've never been his biggest fan. I've been a little bit of the Dave Parkinson camp. I didn't quite compare him to Mick Cassidy, but I've never compared him to Paul Sculthorpe either. I think he's a little bit in between the two. So for me, Bell should start 13, so he deserves that 2 years. And I hope he gets a bit more game time going forward, because I think he's got a lot about him. He's a good ball player, a good defender. He just does the job, and then we don't really see proper 13s anymore. But he is as close to it as you're going to get in the modern game. Him and Cameron Smith at Leeds, I think, is another example of a really good one. Sirinen, I was a bit concerned about his discipline
initially,
or I have been over the last couple of years. He's been there, but when he's playing, and when he's playing well, he's really, really effective.
Yeah,
he is, because he's a good runner, out wide on that left channel.
Yeah.
Links up well, as Norm said a few times, with Dodd, and got scored his first share of tries that way. The only knock on him really is that discipline. He does tend to hit people a little bit later than he should, and finds himself sitting down for a week or two quite frequently. But Matauti's got the same problem. So it's something that I think within that area of the team that needs to be fixed up, and isn't really being addressed well enough, I don't think.
I think when you look at it as a season, when you look at the level and the likely injuries we're going to get, you cannot afford to have players sitting down for disciplinary reasons.
No, you can't.
And certainly not in this game. And certainly if we want to maintain the level that we've been at, if you're going to end up with 2 of your best 3 forwards sitting down when they're fully fit to play, and you're missing 1 or 2 with injury, suddenly you're 4 or 5 down, and you're struggling against any team. And it has been a problem. But I think he certainly wants. I'm glad he's actually not going home, because I'm sure there would be interest for him in NRL. I'm sure he'd get a berth there, and I'm glad to see Bell getting an extension, fully deserved in my view. I think he actually influences the game.
I think especially if Matauti's going to go home, which is what's been suggested, that he will go end of this season. If he does, then Bell and Sirinen are going to be especially important to keep us the same level of options in the back row.
I think Batchelor's nailed that.
Yeah, I mean, the second row is Batchelor and one other, isn't it?
Yeah,
you take your pick between Matauti and Sirinen and Bell, but it's Batchelor and one other for me.
Yeah, that's agreed. And I think Batchelor signed a new deal last year, didn't he? So he's with us for a couple more years. Looking over the hill, couple of signings for the Orcs. Walters, the infamous Sam Walters, one of the Chan children, I think has been picked up. And
it's not Jackie, it's Jackie.
Jackie.
Charlie.
He's opening a restaurant at the same time. And Cruz Lehman rumoured at Wigan.
Signed.
Signed.
Announced,
Done deal.
Yeah.
4 year, isn't it?
Is it? I didn't know
it's a big one. Yeah.
Right, okay. Hopefully he's obviously taken the view that neither Powell or O'Neill are what he wants.
Powell, I think he's. I don't know. He's on the down. O'Neill, I don't think it's too bad actually.
I think he'll stay. Yeah. I think Powell will go. If anyone's going to go, it'll be Powell for me.
Because he must be a big earner as well, mustn't he, Powell?
Yeah. And whenever I've seen him play, he hasn't really, done it. I think a lot of the fans, if you see with a lot of fans, what they talk about, they don't like him either. So I think you can see Lehman coming in, replacing him, and O'Neill being retained as that backup option off the bench.
Norm, your thoughts on Curtis Sirinen and James Bell resigning?
Yeah, both very, very good sort of signings. Like them both. Bella, more of a ball player, and creates you a problem really of what do you do about the likes of Morgan Knowles. I think it's almost a straight shootout between sort of Sirinen and Matautia, because Batchelor's got that other sort of spot, and 3 into 2 doesn't go, certainly with overseas, expensive overseas player, and Sirinen as a player. It's a very powerful combination. The the Bachelors sitting in second row, and then on the Wigan ones, I think a big miss of Saints not getting Sam Walters. I think it would be an excellent acquisition. I think the other guy from Catalans is highly rated, and again in a shootout, will be controversial here in a sort of a shootout, sort of hooker recruitment wise. Was very much in the Leeming camp. I know that we've lined up sort of like elsewhere, but no, I think that's where Wigan have been sort of like short. Having Powell as a sort of a Mickey Mac tribute act for they haven't offered much, and they're getting more of a footballer, and I think O'Neill is retained with that steel. Really, that they like, and I can see Peter Powell either going to Lee or Catalan in the merry-go-round. So yeah. Okay,
well, I think that more or less wraps it up.
As long as they don't come here, we're all right.
Yeah, happy if you don't agree. Yeah, we've got a berth going, but I think that wraps it up, lads. For this month. Thank you very much to Ste on the buttons there, and Ste Orford yourself there for all your comments.
Pleasure as always.
And to Norm, thank you very much, Norm.
Yeah, thanks very much. Dual registration does work. So. Thanks very much for the invite again.
No, you're welcome. We'll see you again soon. I'm just like to say a thank you to Ruskin Sports Village for letting us use their facilities, and we'll see you end of July with some interesting games to review.